Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm doing my May wrap up, but before we get started I just want to talk about a couple of things. So I was originally going to upload my video looking at my predictions for the Battle of Songbirds and Snakes on Thursday. However, because of all the stuff happening with George Floyd and Black Lives Matter and everything like that, I don't really feel comfortable posting a video in the middle of all that and like promoting it on Twitter and stuff. I'm not comfortable doing that. So I don't know when I'm going to do that video, to be honest. It's kind of like the hype's kind of over for that book. So I don't know if I'm ever going to do it, but I'm going to leave some different resources and links and stuff all about the Black Lives Matter movement that's going on and all the petitions to get the police officers connected to this, jailed and all of that stuff. I'm going to put all the links in the description and please check them out because it's really important and we all need to do our part. Even if it's just signing a petition or if you can donate money, then that's great, but just everyone needs to do something to support that, and I will leave all the relevant stuff in the description. So also, this is totally not as serious, but I'm like decorating, so please ignore this ugly wall. I'm painting my room white, and that was like the start. So if you like enjoy this video, please leave a like, please subscribe. I'm so close to 1,000 subscribers, thank you so much. And let's just get started with my May wrap up. So the first book that I have to talk about today is The Accusation by Bandy, and this is a short story collection from an anonymous North Korean author. And every story shows a different issue in North Korea and how people deal with these issues and how the government responds to these issues and what life is like living under a dictatorship. And I really liked all of the stories. They were all very, very impactful, and I really enjoyed taking the topics of the stories and then doing my own research off of them. I found that to be really interesting because I thought I knew a lot about North Korea, but it turns out I actually don't. When I was doing research, I was like, I really didn't realize how extreme it was until I was like looking stuff up, and I'd done that through the stories. So I highly recommend you check this out. It was really cheap on Kindle and it's very eye-opening and very important to know about these different cultures and countries that are just so completely different from our experience in the Western world. It's actually incredible in a bad way. Like, it's really hard to put into words, to be honest. The story of how the book was smuggled out of North Korea as well was at the back of the book, and that itself was really interesting because obviously if these stories like were connected to someone in North Korea, that person would definitely like be executed and put in like prison camps, which are basically like concentration camps. Is terrible, but I don't really go too much into it, but definitely check this book out. It was really impactful and very, very interesting and really left an impression on me. Next, I read Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. This is the third book in the original Hunger Games trilogy, and I have a whole video talking about my feelings, my thoughts, and the themes of the books that I uploaded at the start of May. So I will link that in the description as well. Please check that out because it is the third book in the series, so I don't really want to talk about it too much. But I overall, to put it simple, did actually really enjoy it. I've always thought that I didn't like the third book as much as the other ones because it's like kind of the common consensus, is that the word, on the books is like the third one just isn't that good, but I actually really enjoyed it and I gave it 5 stars. And I was surprised because I feel like I've always just thought I didn't like it because everyone else always says they don't like it, but when I actually read it and like really thought about it and thought about my own personal thoughts on it, I actually enjoyed it much more than I thought I did. So Mockingjay, 5 stars. The next book that I read was The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain, and this was originally published in 1875. It follows Tom Sawyer and his friends, including Huckleberry Finn, as they just go on different adventures throughout their childhood. And I liked this, but it was very descriptive. So that was a good thing and a bad thing for me. Sometimes I really, like, I always say I love world building, but this isn't really world building. It's just very, very descriptive. And it dragged on a little bit sometimes, but overall it was a really good book. It took me a while to get into it. I think it took me around like the halfway mark before I really got invested in the characters and the story, but by the time I got to halfway in, I was actually like really interested in it. Some chapters, however, were so boring. So I wrote in my notes that I think it's chapter 21, it's called Examination Day, and it was the most boring chapter I've ever read of a book, ever. I actually basically just skim read it because it was so boring. Like, it wasn't advancing the plot in any way. It was just like a kind of side chapter. It was like, I don't know. It was just boring, to be honest. Like, to summarize it, it was just boring. So there was like a couple chapters like that where it was like kind of a slog to get through. The other thing is the tone. It jumps around a lot. So there's like a subplot where a man is being falsely accused of murder, which is like a serious topic, and the kids like witness it and they're the only witnesses, so if they don't testify, he's going to be falsely hung. So they kind of like have to speak up and tell the truth. And I don't know if it's a spoiler, but they do in the end, obviously. So there's this really serious subplot, and then it like cuts in with just random adventures of them like playing pranks and running away and like pretending to be pirates and stuff. And then it would go back to like the really serious thing and then back to kind of the silly stuff. And I just felt like the tone jumped around a lot, and it was kind of, I don't know, I didn't like it that much. Now I'm thinking about it, I don't actually know if I like this book. Like I said at the start, I was like, yeah, I liked it, but now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, did I actually? I did have a lot of issues with it, to be honest. I'm going to read Huckleberry Finn, and I have like a whole fancy book of like Mark Twain stories, so I'm definitely going to read them at some point, but now I'm thinking about it, I don't actually know if I like this book. The next book I read was Villette by Charlotte Bronte. I love all of the Bronte sisters books I've read so far, and I was so excited to get into this because one, I've loved all the other books, and two, one of my bookshop friends, TB Kane, I'll try and remember and link him, but obviously I've got a lot of links. He said it's his favourite classic ever, so I was like super excited to get into this, and it follows a girl who moves from England to the fictional city of Villette, which is in Belgium, and there she gets a job as an English teacher in like a French speaking school, and there's also like a romance woven out throughout the story. The main character Lucy spends a lot of time kind of being a spectator to what is going on and not really being an active participant in the story, and I can honestly say that she is the most boring main character that I have ever read about. She was so boring. It was like, have you ever seen Ed, and Eddie? Because there is like a plank of wood in that is a character, and it's just called Plank. That was Lucy. Lucy was Plank from Ed, and Eddie, I swear to God. The other thing about this book is Charlotte Bronte really loves to write in French, and because Villette is a French-speaking town, obviously it's made up, but like she made it a fictional French-speaking town. A lot of the characters speak only French, and at first I was checking the book a lot. At the back of my book I had all the translations of the French, and I was like flicking through and like reading them all, but after a while I was like, I can't be bothered, so I ended up basically just like guessing what they were kind of saying using like the very basic French knowledge I have, and it was making it like a slog to get through. This is the first time I've ever used an audiobook, because I got halfway through this I think, and I was like, I could not focus. I was reading whole pages of text, and then my mind was just on something else, and I didn't even realise I wasn't taking anything in until like 2 pages later. So I like listened to an audiobook while I read along, which was actually really helpful and has definitely made me appreciate audiobooks. The other thing about this book is the love interest is so unlikable, and not even in the way where it's like he's unlikable but you can kind of forgive his flaws. He was just unlikable. I just didn't like him, so then I didn't care about the romance, which meant I then didn't care about the plot, which meant I then didn't care about the book, and it was really disappointing. It was really disappointing actually. There's also a lot of plot conveniences, so there's a whole thing. She does this in Jane Eyre as well, but I kind of overlooked it in that, but all of these characters that the main character Lucy knows from her childhood in England all just happen to be in Villette in Belgium at the same time, like all just by chance, and they all don't really recognise each other until the plot needs them to recognise each other, and it's so just annoying. I didn't like it at all. And there was also a lot of religious debates, which I also just didn't care about. They were so boring. I can't even remember if it was like Catholic versus Protestant or what it was, but there was just a lot of religious back and forth, and it was just so boring. And this is the first Bronte book that I didn't like, and I'm really disappointed about it, because I was really looking forward to reading this. And now I only have Shirley and the Professor left, and the Professor is like Villette but like shorter. It's like the same kind of basic plot. So I don't know. I'm actually kind of worried now about that. But yeah, this book was a disappointment. The next book I read was Heartstopper by Alice Osman, and I read the free version online, and I read all 3 volumes, but I'm only counting it as one book because I read all 3 in the space of like an hour, and personally I don't want to count that towards my Goodreads goal. I don't care if other people do, but I, for my own sense of, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Heartstopper is the story of 2 teenage boys. One is out as being gay, and the other one realizes that he is bisexual, and they kind of start a relationship, and it's secret at first, and then they like come out about it, and it is really cute. I actually could really relate to the bisexual character, like, you know, from when I was kind of realizing like that I was bisexual, and like just coming to terms with that and what it means and all that stuff. Like, it was really relatable, and I appreciated it for that, because I've never read any like books about that, because it's not something I'm actually really interested in, to be honest. But it was like cute and I did appreciate that. However, by the time I was on volume 3, the story was dragging, so like it wasn't even a story. There's only so much like soft, like cute aesthetic, like what would you call it? Like fluffy, like romance stuff that I can take. I feel like I'm just too heartless for these types of things. Because by the time I got to the start of volume 3, I was like, do I really want to keep reading? But then because it was free and it's online, and it only took me like, I don't know, 20 minutes to read each volume, I was like, I'll just keep reading it. And like again, I did like it, it was cute, but I didn't really care about it. And to be honest, I don't know if I'll read any more of the volumes when they come out, because I was kind of over it. Like it was cute and I enjoyed it, but there wasn't really anything like holding me there to like keep me invested. The characters were like great, and there's a lot of representation of like all different skin colors and disabilities and like LGBT people, and everything is very, very representative and stuff. So I definitely would recommend it, but I was kind of bored by the time I got to volume 3, but I did overall enjoy it. I feel this has been a really negative video. Like the past like 3, I've been like, oh, they're okay. But like I did actually enjoy it. I think I gave it 4 stars. I just was like bored by the end. Next book I read was One Final Vinyl by Savvy, who is a fellow booktuber, author tuber. I will try and remember and link her channel down below as well. I have so many links to put in. Go subscribe to her. She has really interesting videos. But I basically read this all in one sitting, and it was a really nice, fun book. We follow Emma on her last day in her hometown before she moves off to college, and she is like having a party, but no one shows up, which is kind of sad. And then a 90-year-old woman with dementia shows up at her door. So Emma decides that she is going to drive like hours like across the country or across state to take this old woman home to her care home. And it's just like a fun coming of age road trip story, and I did really enjoy it. It gave me Booksmart vibes, if any of you saw that movie. I can't remember what the actresses were called, or the actresses' names, but if you've seen that movie, it's kind of similar vibes in some way. I don't know how, I just really thought about that movie when I was reading this book. It's very character focused, there's not much of a plot. We spend a lot of time going in Emma's head and like going through her memories and like seeing how she ended up being the way she is, and like what she's worried about and what she's scared about for college and all this stuff. And it was an interesting like character study, and I definitely like enjoyed it. Like I said, I read it all in one sitting. It took me like a couple hours. I just sat and read it all, and I definitely would recommend it, especially because, you know, she's a fellow booktuber, so I think it's good to promote people in the community and all that stuff. The only few things I didn't really like was sometimes there was just too much unneeded description. At one point there was 3 pages worth of description on her best friend Jen. They were in like a diner and she was just talking about every single aspect of like who Jen was as a person, what she looks like, and I was like, I don't really care, to be honest. I could have went without that. And the other thing is that there's a lot of music references. So the book is called One Final Vinyl, and the main character loves like vinyl. She's indie and retro, and she talks about music a lot and makes music references that I personally don't think even someone that's into vinyls would make those references if they were like 18, but it's not really a big thing. Like, it was just like a little nitpick, but overall I did really enjoy it. Next I read Palo Alto by James Franco, the actor, and this is another short story collection all about teenagers in 1990s Palo Alto. All the short stories kind of interconnect, all the characters like are in each other's stories, and all of them are basically the worst human beings ever, to be honest. This was a reread. So I read this back in 2013 when the movie came out because I was obsessed with the movie. It's one of my favourite movies to this day. I'm definitely going to rewatch it soon actually. It's so aesthetic and it's a good movie. And reading it, I was like, this is not that great, to be honest. It's okay. And because I already owned it, I didn't grudge rereading it, but I don't know if I'd want to pay money for it now, to be honest. Franco's writing is weird because it's very like childish and basic at times, and then there'll be like a really like poetic piece of text and like a really nice poetic quote that just comes out of nowhere, and then it goes back to like being childish, like immature, basic kind of writing, and it's a weird, it jumps between the two. Like there is some really, really nice quotes in this book, and then there's some stuff that you make you like, there was what was it? Something about ketchup, I don't even know. Anyway, so the writing is very all over the place, and all the characters, okay, this is why I can't recommend it, to be honest. Because I know it doesn't reflect James Franco, it's just the characters, but all the characters are racist, homophobic, they say sexist stuff, most of them are violent, they all do drugs. There is like a whole plot about one student, a Chinese student, being sexually assaulted like repeatedly, and then there's a story about a teacher and a student and like a age gap, like abusive relationship, and basically everything that BookTube hates is in this book. Like all of these characters are like the worst people, and I just know for a fact that nobody on BookTube will want to read this, to be honest. Like I said, I don't grudge rereading it because I already owned it, but like I can't honestly recommend it. It's very problematic, for lack of a better word. But again, I know it's not James Franco. Like, I know it's not his thoughts, it's just the characters, but they're not good characters. Almost last, I read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which I am sick of talking about at this point, to be honest. I've done a full non-spoiler and spoiler review. I was the first person on the entire internet, not just YouTube, the entire internet to get a review up. So, you know, just give me my crown. I will link that in the description as well. Please go watch that. To sum things up, I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and my only real issue was the pacing. But again, I have a full review, so go check that out if you want my full thoughts, because honestly, I'm sick of talking about it. And last but not least, I read the original 3 books from the Maze Runner series by James Dashner. I wasn't interested in the prequels, to be honest, and I will be doing a full video talking about my thoughts on this series either next week or the week after that, so keep an eye out for that. To summarise though, I gave the first book 4 stars and the other 2 3 stars. I thought the whole series as a whole was okay. It was nothing special, and there was never really any like deeper themes, but like I said, I will talk about it all in like 2 weeks time in my video, so keep an eye out for that. And that was my May wrap up. So I just want to reiterate my point from the start of the video. All of the links to do with George Floyd and Black Lives Matter and all of that stuff will be in the description. It'll be at the very top. Please go check it out, do whatever you can. Even if it's just signing a petition, it's better than nothing. It's a really important issue that we all need to take action and just support the Black community, especially, you know, at this time. It is just really important that we all do our part. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, please subscribe. Hopefully in my next video, this ugly wall, well, no, not hopefully, definitely in my next video, this ugly wall will be gone. I don't know if you can tell, this one's like nice, freshly white paint, so this one will be all fixed. And yeah, thanks so much for watching.